Hi, this is SFBarkast, and I am Jeff Cleary.
I'm Andrew Loud.
And Andrew, where are we today?
We're at the Uptown.
Oh my God! You know what? I'm so happy to be back in the Mission. Like, I know it's a terrible thing to say, but it's nice to be back in the comfortable neighborhood.
Well, we sort of had to do it for like street cred. You know, like we had to, like, you know, we didn't want people coming up to us and being like, hey, what about Fisherman's Wharf? What do we chop liver? Like,
who would say that? Like some like concierge?
Probably.
But yeah, we're back in the Mission, and this is on the corner of 17th and Cap. And
infamous Cap Street.
Infamous Cap. Like, I have
formerly infamous.
I have a few stories about Cap Street. And so Cap Street is half a block east of Mission Street.
Yes.
And we've been coming to this bar for a long time, and I remember the bar has these booths on the side and these big, huge windows. Right. And back now, the neighborhood's changed. Things have, like...
Well, the city's changed.
The city's changed, right? Just the whole personality. But, like, back in the day when we first started coming here, this was the drag for prostitutes and Johns. So if you were lucky enough to get a booth near the window on like a Friday, Saturday night, or any night of the week for that matter, you could look out the window and watch the entertainment.
Exactly. I mean, like, and you know, if you mentioned the name Cap Street to anybody like in the mid-'90s, that would be the first image that comes to my head is like, oh, whores.
Yes. Well, there was actually a band in the Mission that did a song called Cap Street Ho.
Nice.
And and honestly, it was pretty grim. Yeah. Like, you know, it's not like the red light district in Amsterdam where I've never been. Right. But, like, I remember, like, sitting here looking out the window and just thinking, how does that girl make money? Because that's not appealing.
I heard it used to be almost as bad as that, like, cruise ship that, like, docked, like, yesterday. Where it was just, you know, like, you're ankle deep in, like, human shit.
Well, I can't segue away from that. Like knee deep in human shit. But
it's better than neck deep.
I'm gonna try. What happened? This is what I've heard happened about the Cap Street hose. Is that there was a guy a couple blocks up, like we're on 17th here. He was probably around 19th, and he was this engineer who lived alone with his mom, and he's got tired of seeing these Johns pull up in their cars and seeing hookers like everywhere. So what he did was he went on the roof of his apartment, and he had cut rebar, and he would throw it off the roof and hit the Johns' cars.
What a fucking killjoy.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Plus he owes me money for fucking up my car.
Yeah. Well, when he got caught and he became like this the neighborhood like rallied behind him. Like, this guy is a crusader, and like, yeah, we're sick of that shit as well.
He's like a really unimaginative Bernie Getz.
Yeah. Well, and part of his defense was that people were saying like, well, you could have hurt somebody throwing rebar off the roof, and he was saying that because he used his engineer training to figure out the velocity, the velocity of the bar, and by the time it hit like the car, and he said that even if it hit the windshield, it wouldn't go through the windshield. So he would hit the car, dent the car, or break the windshield, and then the Johns would be gone.
Another victory for science.
Yeah, exactly. I think he was like, he watched a lot of Bill Nye the Science Guy because he had a similar problem. And I guess, like, since it got so much exposure, like, the cops started trolling Cap Street. And so now all that fun is gone. Although somebody told me they just moved down to Shotwell or one of the other streets east of here.
I actually heard that, like, Caltech has a really good prostitution dispersion department now.
Yeah, I learned this in college.
Fantastic.
So, what do you think of this bar?
I love this place. I've always loved this place. I think I know that I said a few weeks ago that like the Tempest, I voted that like one of my favorite bar in the city for a while. This would be right in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was actually here last night to tell you how much I like this bar.
That's not permitted. You're only allowed to go out when we record this.
I was doing research.
Oh, okay.
But it's a huge bar, big wooden bar, and it's got a pool table. It's I guess what you call this design like an island bar design, because you can walk 360 degrees around it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then-
There's sort of like a false back that goes back into the pool table or whatever. And like, there's couch. I mean, there's dingy, awful couches, but there's couches.
Oh, yeah.
But like, I don't think that like this is definitely not the place where you would sell like the amenities, like
No, it's
hey,
all
like
character.
it's got like comfortable chairs and like great drinks or whatever.
But they've got a pool table and they've got a really good jukebox.
They've got a pool table. They've got a great jukebox. Like, and yeah, it's mostly about like the sort of environment, the seediness of it, but without like any sort of like pretense to it. Like it's,
Well, like we've talked about before with other bars, this is a bar that's kind of has not changed.
Totally.
It's all you got to get the feeling like if this ever changed, like if it became like a theme bar, like an expensive cocktail bar, like
Right.
people would riot in this neighborhood.
well, it's never. Yeah, I mean, like as it's had its ebbs and flows like any other place, but it's never like gone into the tank so far to where it's like there's nobody here and you're worried that it's going to close, and it's never been so overrun that you're like, oh shit, like I can't even go to my favorite bar.
It was always this gem in the neighborhood where, like, when the neighborhood started to get gentrified over and there were a lot more people coming into the neighborhood for Friday and Saturday night, you knew that you could still go to the Uptown and it'd still be cool and
Yeah.
it wouldn't be like overrun with douchebags.
Right. And pretty inexpensive too. I mean, like
yeah.
like happy hour beers are cheap here, and like
I think I watched I watched a couple. They're big baseball. They like baseball here.
Okay.
I watched a few Giants games here. I think I was here in what year was it that Richard Jewell, that Atlanta Olympics?
96, I think.
I mentioned like Richard Jewell, and he was totally exonerated in that whole thing. It was the like the Atlanta like, trash can bombing. Before 9/11, that was like the worst thing that happened to us.
I'm sure he appreciates you bringing up his name.
Like
17 years after it's been cleared, you're like,
Right, exactly.
Who's that Richard Jewell guy? You mean the guy that bombed the thing? Oh, the guy that
I can hear
they
him.
thought did.
I can hear him unsubscribing from this podcast like right now.
Son of a bitch. I thought I could go to a local bar podcast and get away from this, but turns out.
I remember being here when that whole thing happened, and people were just like stunned, like, "Oh my God, there was an explosion!"
Like, when the actual bombing.
yeah.
Not when Richard Jewell was
Oh, yeah.
exonerated.
Well,
Yeah, probably not.
we all remember where we were for that.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's like Kennedy shooting and being shot.
So I've got a story about this bar. Like, I had been coming here for a long time, and the people who hang out here are still the same people, like 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I love about this bar. It's like, you know, always like, oh, I wonder what Greg is doing, or Tom is doing, or Rob is doing. I'm like, oh, I could always just go down to the Uptown and find out.
Or I could just call. You know.
So I'd been hanging out here for a while, and I was sitting at the bar, and this guy starts talking to me. His name's Greg, and he's a great guy. And he actually got me playing on the Uptown softball team for a few games. And he just like looks at me, it's like, and he says, "Hey, you want to vote?" And I was like, like it was like
A million things running through your head, like.
right, exactly. And it's like, you know, it's like
Was that
maybe
butt stuff?
it's like 12:30 on a Saturday night, and like I didn't understand what he was referring to, and as like in most of those situations, I just go, yeah, and
Hell yeah.
so then he walks me.
Do I need a condom?
So then he walks me to this room in the back that
Okay.
is like, you know, you have to go down the stairs. It's where they like keep all like the booze and stuff.
Okay.
And I guess back then they used to leave it open. And then when we get down there, and then he pulls out a joint. So I was like, okay, I kind of thought this is what it was. This is before, you know, you could have a card.
You have fooled me, sir. I thought I was going to have to blow
Exactly.
you, and now you're making me smoke marijuana.
He turned around with a joint, and I already had my pants down. He's like, that's not how we do it.
It's like, that's how I smoke it.
So they used to call the back room in way where they keep all the liquor the voting booth.
Okay.
So if you heard somebody say, "Hey, you want to go to the voting booth, or you want to go vote?" you knew you were going to go down there and smoke some pot.
That seems like such a silly like way to refer to it, because you're not like if you're like a narcotics officer or something like that, and you were sitting there listening to it, your first thought wouldn't be like, "Oh, I guess they are going to go vote."
Yes, exactly. Ooh, that election really crept up on me. And
oh, geez,
polls are still open at 1 a.m.
seems odd that he would be asking people to go down to the basement to vote.
Everybody has to do their civic duty. These are good Americans.
They come back looking sort of like they're on drugs, but I'm not going to question their patriotism.
By the way, like a narcotics officer in San Francisco, whoa, jeez, like, what? Why would you do that?
Silliness.
But that was great. Like, and I felt like I got brought into the inner circle, and
you're a registered voter now.
It was like when I turned 18.
Right.
But that kind of blew up in my face once because I came in here and Greg looked at me and goes, "Hey, let's go vote." And I was like, "All right." So we went out back and then like smoked, and I was with a friend, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, this is totally cool." I was acting cool. It's like, "Yeah, this is totally cool. We do this all the time." Right. And the Greg's just like, "Oh, I'll be back." And it was like really late. It was like close to 1:30, and then like Greg just like never comes back. And then so like me and my buddy are back there, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it." And they call last call, and I was like, "Jesus, is Greg coming back?" I was like, "Oh shit." So then like we wait a little bit longer, and then I was like, "Fuck it, we got to get out of here." So we come out, and the whole bar's empty, and the bartender, the girl who was here, was this beautiful girl from Montreal. I forget her name, but she's like, "Who the fuck are you? Where the fuck were you?" And I was like, "Voting booth." And she got so mad at me. She was just like, "Get the fuck out!" I was just like, and I was like, spent like the last like 20 minutes telling my friend how cool I am, and then I'm just getting yelled at by the bartender.
Well, it must have made like actual voting really confusing for you the next election because you like walked into the polling place and you're like, "Where the fuck's the weed at?"
Exactly. I always have like, whenever I go vote, I always want to like, you stand. They don't have curtains or anything, but you stand there, but you want to like kick the person next to you's foot and be like, "Hey, what'd you get for 401?" Or you kick some other guy. Goes
capital Texas.
Like, "Hey, this side's out of toilet paper." Spare square.
All hilarious.
All hilarious.
Well, I noticed in doing, as usual, the minimal amount of research.
Okay.
But this one, in the SF Weekly, the paper of record, that's not the Guardian.
Okay.
Or the Chronicle.
Or the Examiner. Who cares? We could go on forever.
The street sheet. It won, this place, the Uptown, won the best hipster mission bar.
Oh, God, that negates everything I've said. Like I was saying, like, "Oh, you can come here and you can meet like real people." And
but this is like 2009's award, so maybe they realized their folly after doing that and said, "Oh wait, you know what?"
Like I said before, a lot of people think that hipster is a pejorative term, and I don't think so at all. Like, if the people who hang out here don't seem like, when I hear hipster, I think people are like trying to be a certain person.
Yeah.
Where I feel like when you come here and you hang out, like they're not trying. That's just who they are.
Yeah.
I do artwork. I'm a welder and I do artwork.
Right.
And
I would go on record and say that this is probably in the top 5 like least pretentious, like least no one here that I see is here to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
If anything, quite the opposite.
That would be the worst if people like started coming down. Well, I mean, I don't know if that does that still happen? Like, people are like, it's almost like a tourist attraction. "Ooh, I read about this hipster bar. Honey, grab the camera. Let's go see some skinny jeans tonight."
You would really have to. I'm trying to think of places where you would be able to do that, and like, I don't know. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but certainly not this place.
Yeah, not this place.
Not the fuck no. I vote no.
You vote no.
Right. And being a registered voter.
Can I just say one last thing about like the street activity that used to go on Cap Street?
Please.
One of my someone told me about this movie. It's like this Japanese movie about the afterlife.
Okay.
And they were saying, and like in this movie, they were saying that whatever your happiest moment was in like your life, if you go to heaven, you just live that forever. And if that is true, like, I will be on the back of my friend Seppi's bike,
right,
and riding down he had this this backpack that he rigged with speakers,
Right.
and he would ride. I would ride on the pegs, and we would go down Cap Street, and he would blast Rick James.
Right.
And it was like a Spike Jones movie because all of the pimps and the hookers and the Johns would start dancing. And it was, I remember like looking behind me with this huge grin on my face and just thinking, wow, this just went from like total desperation and destitution to like dance party.
Right. Spreading joy amongst a sector of the population that doesn't regularly experience it.
Yeah, you know what? The other 23, the other 99% of the time, those people's lives are horrible. But for that one, those 10 seconds, it was
shining
great.
moment.
Hey, if we can reach one person.
All right.
Are you ready to take a break?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, you know what? I need to get a beer.
Yeah, catchphrase. Bing, bing, bing.
All right, this is SFBarkast, and we're at the Uptown in the Mission. We'll be back.
Got a blowjob down Cap Street. It all cost me 30.
All right, this is SFBarkast, and we are back at the Uptown.
Uptown? Is it the Uptown Lounge or just the Uptown?
I think it's just the Uptown. We went into that in the last Barcast about, like, what's the difference between a tavern and a lounge and a bar.
That's for,
I think it's a state
that's
of
for
mind.
scholars to know. That's for
Yeah,
people at
exactly.
Caltech majoring in whore removal.
I'm actually really glad that when we first walked in here, like, there was nobody here. It was
Yeah.
you, me, the bartender, Jessica, who's great, and her Pomeranian.
Right. It's adorable.
Whose name is Ramona, and she just looks like a walking mop.
Yeah, it's like
Adorable.
a black mop head that just happens to have feet.
So I was a little worried that, like, you know, we're gonna like be in this like silent, empty, like, you know, quiet room. But people came in, and it's like, you know, it's 4 o'clock, so people are getting off work or like cutting out early. It's
Waking up.
Friday, waking up. And also, we played some music on the jukebox. The jukebox is great, but I swear to God, Andrew, like, I know I played half the songs and you played half the songs. You did not play the Rolling Stones' "Give Me Shelter," did you?
No.
Because one of our listeners like complained that I don't know, that it seems like every bar we go to, at some point, someone plays "Give Me Shelter."
You know, at this stage in the podcast, everybody knows when we say one of our listeners that you're talking about Drew Harmon.
I'm not talking about Drew Harmon. I'm actually talking about Steve Henry, who said today that he was like really happy that we mentioned him on our dumb podcast. So, Steve Henry, this one goes out to you. I hope you like Elvis Costello. So what time does this bar open? Because we've had some issues like trying to find, because we record in the afternoon.
Yeah. I think like on weekends, I think this place opens at 2, and on regular weekdays opens at 4.
Yeah.
So come on out, day drinkers.
Day drinkers? I like day drinking. How about you?
Oh, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, day drinking is fun, like, especially if you stop. Like, you know, if you day drink and you get a little buzz, and then you're like, you know what, I'm going to go to sleep and get up early. That's great. The problem is when you go like, I day drink, and then you get drunk, and you're like, now I'm going to stay out all night.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say it's the stopping that I have a major problem with. I think it's the because I'll think like, okay, like you know, if I stop at like 3 or something, that gives me a couple hours to sober up. It's like, no, it doesn't usually work that. Like, if you stop at 3, you're gonna be like your drunkest at 5, and then hey, the new evening's kicking in. So like,
It's like, whoa, I can't stop now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going so well.
Like, I don't want to waste this time between 3 and 5 o'clock, like sobering up, quote unquote.
But also what they have here is they have like a pinball game, a Lord of the Rings pinball game, because I'm just like finding this out now that a lot of people I know that have had this dirty little secret, they love pinball. And maybe it's going to be the next, I don't know, shuffleboard or bags.
Cornhole.
And they have a classic video game here where you can play Galaga and Centipede and all that shit.
I'm telling you, this place has everything.
It does have everything. And they also like
I want to live here.
forward my mail. I kind of mentioned this earlier, like it's a baseball bar, and they love the Giants here. And you know what? It's pitchers and catchers have reported to spring training. So we're at that point where we can start looking forward to baseball. Are you excited?
Totally.
Really?
I don't know. I'm a lifelong Mariners fan from originally from Seattle, and so baseball its season is usually another opportunity to be disappointed.
That's true. My heart goes out to you Seattle fans because I remember that one year where you guys won like something like 114 games.
Or like Brett Boone was like pumped up full of silly juice like Popeye.
Yeah, he did look like Popeye. Ramona the dog is looking at me. But like and it just seemed like that team was going to like steamroll everybody. They lost to the Yankees in the first round or some shit like that.
Which sucked because I was actually living sort of like in the Northeast at that time, and like they were working with a lot of Yankee fans, and like they took great joy in pointing out that the 110 victories meant shit at the end.
I remember when I was younger, like not liking baseball because for me it was like too slow. But I feel like as I'm getting older, it's becoming. I like it more. Is that like something that just happens to everybody?
I think it's possible. I mean, like it's certainly like it doesn't command your attention the way like a lot of other games do, and like I think certainly like the playoffs is compelling because it's like because then it's like it is kind of tense and like that. Like I think it's just the regulars. I mean, like it's a good game to like go and hang out and watch, like versus like be really into.
Well, also I feel like I read this article about like the allure of baseball and why like people like it, and they're saying that it's like it's such a long season from like spring training to the last game of the World Series. It's like 9 months.
Yeah.
And it starts in the spring, especially for people in the Northeast or wherever it's like really cold.
Yeah.
Like when you first get that taste of spring, it's so encouraging.
Yeah.
Like it's uplifting because you're just like, holy shit, all this like horrible weather is going to break, and then it's going to be spring, and then it's going to be summer, and we'll all be happy again.
Right.
So it's like this time of like total optimism, and that's kind of true for every team. Unless you're the Kansas City Royals, like every
or the Seattle Mariners,
or the Cleveland Indians,
right.
Every team in the spring thinks, yeah, this could be our year,
right?
And you'd be surprised how powerful that is, especially like in a place like Boston, where like we've won 2 championships in the last like 10 years, but before that, it's like people would just have this wellspring of optimism, like, yeah, this could be the year, and just like you look at people and you think like, you know what, why are you thinking this? Like, it's been 86 years. Like, it's been 86.
To this cheerful optimism, fuck off.
Exactly. Haven't you been beaten down? But I guess it's like one of those triumph of the human spirits, or like a Frank Darabont film about hope, where you're just like, I can't, like, even though I've been in jail and raped, I am still keeping hope that justice will be served.
I think it's like,
and the Red Sox will win.
Right. I think it sort of follows the natural path of like drinking and blacking out and stuff too. Like you black out and you think like oh God, like maybe this is the year the Red Sox do it. And it's like and then like as the season wears on, or oh yeah, that's right.
Well, there's also
fuck with me again.
In those 9 months, there's a lot of like environmental like changes as well, where it's like it's cold during spring training, and everybody has to go to the Cactus League or the Grapefruit League, and then it gets really hot, and then by the time the playoffs come, it's kind of cold in a lot of these places. So you kind of feel like it's almost like it's like a girlfriend. Like every season is like a girlfriend, where like your relationship has had ups and downs, and you've kind of been through the ringer, and like that's what you remember about it. Unfortunately, the last 2 seasons I bought the MLB package for DirecTV, and I decided I'm not gonna get it this year because it's really expensive, but like you get to see every game from every city.
It seems like a good thing, especially if you like to just have a game every night on in the background or something like that. It's fantastic.
It's great because you also get the feed from every local station. So like for the Red Sox games, I get to watch Nestle.
Right.
And you get to hear the announcers, and it's great, but it is expensive. And I think like because the Red Sox came in last place last year, I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to get it this year.
Right.
So if you go to the DirecTV website and you want to add anything to your like account, super easy.
Or you can do it from your remote, right?
Yeah, you can just like make a click. And I just realized when I went to go cancel it that there's no place where you can cancel it.
Right.
And so I had to like write them an email and say, hey, look, I just don't want to be charged for the MLB package this year, so can you please just take that off my account? And I get an email back, and he says, oh, yeah, well, in order to do that, you have to call in and talk to somebody.
So that's Bob's job, and he's not here.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Oh, he's on vacation.
I wrote him an email back, and I was like, hey, all I'm doing is getting rid of baseball. I'm not getting an abortion. I don't need to talk to a counselor about this. It's not it's not a decision I'm going to regret years later.
I'm not buying a gun to shoot up a school. Like, leave me alone.
And like, who is that guy where it's like, what is he going to say to sort of, is he going to try to talk me out of it? Like that counselor? Is he going to be like, well, the Red Sox came in last place, but, anything could happen.
He's probably like, trained in like Scientology or something like that, where he's just like, hey, free to leave at any time, of course, but
exactly.
We just really like to know what you.
You just walk out this exit door and it leads to another room.
It's like, what is it that you liked about it to begin with? Like, so you're just going to turn your back on that? Like,
yeah, exactly. You're really going to leave me? You're going to strap it on me like that?
Yeah, there's like ball boys and people that work for the Boston Red Sox. They're sort of innocent victims in this.
Exactly.
Like, one or two of them probably lose their job because you've decided to move on.
You should just have a big sign, just be like, shh, God. I'm just thinking about the look on David Ortiz's face when he hears this.
It just worries me that you could be so blasé about this and be like, I just want to cancel it. Like,
that team is
give us another chance.
That team is fragile enough. Well, what's going to happen to them when they hear this?
Why do you think they had to get rid of Jason Bay? Like some other guy canceled his subscription.
So no Red Sox for me this year, but so I'll have to make do with like the 20 games that are on ESPN for them and the Giants, the world champion Giants.
Right. That's all. In the next couple of years, I'm sure it'll all be like as stealable as music.
Oh, I hope so. I really do hope so.
Yeah.
Take that, DirecTV.
So we're gonna put you out of business like Tower Records. It's like. I mean, that's the one thing is like they've actually put satellites in the sky, so I guess it's not quite as bad as like Tower Records, but I suppose they do have the right to sort of block your access. But
I know that's kind of a weird thing because when you're getting like a satellite service, they're like, do you have a clear view of the southern sky? I'm just like, what?
There's a sky?
Is there like Skywalker? What are you gonna do? I guess that's where their satellite resides.
Do I need one of those like sextants, like the old timey boat captains used to use?
Yeah, and who knows? Well, I mean, we all know where the south is, but it's like, oh yeah, brag about it. Like, yeah, my view of the southern sky is crystal clear.
Do I have a view of the southern sky?
Come over sometime.
I have the view of the southern sky, asshole.
My neighbor is so jealous of my view of the southern sky. You should see him.
Invite him over and just shove his face in the southern sky and be like, drink it in, dick.
How do you like that, Roger?
I bet I can get Iranian television every channel.
Hey, do you want to get a beer?
Time for another beer?
I think it's time for another beer, and I'm gonna go bother the Pomeranian.
Let's go. Let's play Kick the Pomeranian.
All right, this is SFBarkast, and we are back.
Hey.
At the Uptown in the Mission, 17th and Cap.
17th Cap. What is that? Between Mission and
South Van Ness.
Van Ness, between 17th and 16th.
Between 16th and 18th, actually.
Actually, 17th and 18th. Yeah. Whatever. You can find it.
Exactly.
And if you can't,
you have Google Maps.
You meant to come here. Go somewhere else. I did it's funny. I was reading some Yelp reviews of this place, and and as usual, most Yelp reviews are bullshit.
I love people, by the way, who get mad at an establishment and they just go, "Oh, I'll get my revenge. I'll give a."
And there was a lot of that.
Yelp
there was a lot of obvious
people who felt slighted.
Well, no, people that were just like, "Oh, it was so dirty," and why, and it smelled, and dogs, and it was just awful. But what I thought was weird was that this place, every other place in the Mission has got at least 900,000 reviews. This place has 150 reviews. And
That's
so,
a
like,
good sign.
It's totally a good sign. It just means that it's under the radar, and nobody's recommending this to their friends in Pacific Heights to come here and hang out.
Well, actually, that's something. Did you say that one of the reviews said, "Oh my God, they had dogs there"? It's like I think that's.
Yeah. Well, somebody said it smelled like wet dog or something like that. It's like,
I think that's something we should incorporate into our reviews. That whether it's dog friendly or not. I mean, of course, this place is because we've been talking about the Pomeranian running around.
Right.
But a lot of people want to know which bars they can bring their dogs to.
Yeah.
And this is definitely one of them.
I think most places that don't serve food seem to be pretty cool. At least in this.
You know what? I think that's like a rule. If you're a lot of people try to bring their dogs to Zeitgeist, and people think it's because they have an outdoor area and the dogs will shit out in the outdoor area,
right.
but it's not really that. It's because they serve food there.
Yeah.
So that makes sense because you're not allowed to bring a dog to any place that serves food.
Right. And that makes sense. I mean, I the Zeitgeist, I like the outdoor area enough. But if there was 50 dogs roaming around there, it would be pretty intolerable.
yeah, it would be. Although they would love it because it's wood chips in the background. They can dig and have but whatever. Sorry, dogs, but you can come to the Uptown.
Sorry, dog listeners.
Exactly. They listen at a higher frequency.
Exactly.
Okay, so I just want to get this out of the way. We just came out of what I this one holiday that I really hate, and that is Valentine's Day.
Right.
And it's not because I'm bitter about romance or anything like that. It's just that one of the things I hate about Valentine's Day is all those at the holidays. I hate all those commercials where you give your girlfriend or your wife a diamond or a brand new car, and it just sort of
anything at all, really.
Well, no, I mean, when you just give her something she likes.
Right.
But then after the holidays, I have this exhale. I'm just oh yes, finally we're out of that. And then I realized we only have a month-long reprieve, and then all the Valentine's Day ads start up, and those could be worse than the holiday ads.
Yeah, well, and there's definitely there's a sense of obligation to it. That's just
yes, exactly.
Well,
when all those ads they interview people and they basically appeal to the worst sides of everybody. All the ones where they're interviewing men. The men are just oh yeah, if I don't bring down chocolates to my wife, then
cut my dick off.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in the doghouse, or
that should be the end of every ad. It should just be don't get your dick cut off.
They probably sell more chocolates. But also chocolates, I can't think of a worse gift to give somebody because it's there's a love-hate relationship with food and chocolates, where it's kind of it's like cocaine.
Yeah.
It's here's something I know you're gonna like now, and then you're gonna feel shitty about later.
Here, because you've given up. Here's some chocolate.
And as a gift to somebody, that's a horrible. I would be hard pressed to think of a worse gift to give your significant other. Maybe a treadmill,
right.
Or breath mints.
See, I was I think it was cunning and smart in my case that I got married on Valentine's Day.
Super smart, man.
Yeah, because now I can sort of take the end around of all those suckers buying last minute Valentine's Day stuff. I can go around the back of them and buy last minute anniversary stuff. But I can still make fun of them and be you suckers.
Valentine's Day was yesterday, and there was a point where I found myself at Walgreens,
right.
And I realized that everybody around me had Valentine's Day gifts, and I was holding toilet paper. Which I wanted to turn around to everybody and be hey, it could be a gift.
Right. Hey, my girlfriend has the shits. Don't judge.
Exactly. I'm taking care of her. And on the other side of those ads, the female perspective is horrible as well, because they have these flowers commercials where they have these girls going, oh yeah, when those flowers came in the office, it really made the other guys in the office look bad. I'm just you're a fucking horrible person. Why would anybody
go? That's what my life is all about.
That's
making other people look bad.
Exactly. It's you have one side, you have the women who just want to look good in front of other people, and the other side is you have these guys who are just barely tolerate their significant other.
Well, it's weird. I mean, like, not that it's weird, but I mean, like it's funny too that like both ads, like neither one of them are like, like, hey, do something nice for your husband. Like, it's just like, like me. It's another one of my days. Like,
yeah, exactly, right, exactly. It's all like self-preservation.
All right. Fucking weird.
So. This kind of has like a Valentine's Day thing because it happened on Valentine's Day. But I met this wonderful guy named Mr. Lucky the other night, and he knows everything about bars, and so we're gonna have him on the Barcast at some point. But we were talking about all these old bars, so I asked him, "Hey, what's like the toughest bar that you remember?" And like, I was like, that's gone.
Toughest, like rough and tumble, like
rough and tumble. Yeah. And I assumed that the bar was gone. He's like, oh, well, that would be the 21 Club, and it's still there. It's in the Tenderloin. It's like Turk and Jones.
Oh, wow.
And so
I thought that was gone as well.
Well, so I was riding my bike around the city yesterday, and I was like, remembered like, oh shit, like I should like ride by the 21 Club and see what Mr. Lucky's talking about, see if it's really as tough as you think. I mean, this is during the day.
Right.
So I was like, I should be totally fine. So I get there, I stop at the light, and so I'm looking in the bar, and like, I'm on my bicycle, and there's some dude in the crosswalk right in front of me, and he's yelling at some dude on the other side of the street, and this guy like runs over, and the first guy who was yelling like kind of puts his hands up like he's gonna fight, kind of like to protect himself, and the other guy comes over and like kind of grabs his elbow and says like, hey, no, I'm not gonna hurt you, everything's fine. And so he kind of pulls him close and he starts saying something really cool. This is all happening right in front of me. And I was like, oh, that's cool, because like this guy thought this guy was gonna hurt him, and he's just gonna be like, hey man, I want to be the bigger man or whatever. And then as I'm scanning, I just realized as soon as this dude like finishes saying what he's saying, he just left hook cold cocks this dude. And shit. I'm talking about the second guy, like cold cocked the dude who thought, oh, this guy doesn't want to beat me up. So it's even more insidious because this guy like kind of like dropped his guard. Yeah. This guy got this dude to drop his guard, and he came over and said, hey, no, I'm not going to hurt you. And then like said something, and then it was one of the most...
I'm not going to hurt you, Mike. Right hand, Mike.
It was one of the most violent like left hooks I've ever seen. Like it was like, and this guy, it was like that Pacquiao fight I was talking about. Right. He was out before he hit the pavement, and it was right in front of me. Like it all happened 4 feet in front of me. So like I'm just like, and so the guy's like on the ground and people are yelling, and I get off my bike and I just kind of like grab his arm, and I was just saying like, hey, are you still with me? Are you still here? Right. And like he's totally dazed. He's out. Can't tell if it was from the punch or from like, of course he hit his head on the pavement when he fell. And so I'm trying to like help this guy. I'm like, dude, you gotta you're in the middle of the street, man. Like you gotta, can you pull it together? Are you okay? And of course then, right, some girl like runs over and like screams, you just got knocked the fuck out.
She's like doing the play-by-play. Like,
well, no, I kind of feel like that, like and like instead of like being mad or anything, like I just like thought like, you know what, everybody's got a role to play. Right. I'm like I'm the concerned biker. She's the you just got knocked the fuck out girl, which is probably why she lives in the Tenderloin, because that's her catchphrase. And then probably, if she lived in the suburbs, she wouldn't get to use it that much. But in the Tenderloin, she gets to say it all the fucking time.
She's like, you want to buy a T-shirt? It says, I got knocked the fuck out.
And so I get the guy, but after like a few seconds, this guy just starts bleeding out of his head. Like, I can't say nose, mouth, ears, or whatever, because it was just like everywhere. It was blood everywhere. So I'm not touching the dude. And one thing I'll say that I was amazed at how fast the cops got there in the Tenderloin. And somebody last night told me that no, it's not because anyone called the cops. It's just that they're trolling the Tenderloin all the time. And like,
we patrol that bar
it was a matter of like 3 minutes.
Wow.
And they came and they thought the guy like fell on the ground. I was like, no, the guy got like fucking cold cocked in the middle of the street. And so I was like, okay, now everything's taken care of. I can get the fuck out of here. So I got on my bike and I started riding down Turk Street, and I realized like half a block up, there's another dude with like a bloody nose, like walking around, and then like a half a block further up from there, there's some cops like shaking down some dude, like, you know. And I'm just like, this just is like the theater that goes on in the Tenderloin all the time. Honestly, I don't understand how Drew Harmon does it, living down there.
That's twice in one show.
And that's coming from a guy who lives at 16th to Valencia.
Right.
I guess 16th to Valencia isn't that bad, but like 16th to Mission is pretty bad.
Yeah.
So, to tie it all in, happy Valentine's Day, Tenderloin.
Excellent. Wow.
I think I need to get a drink.
All right.
I need to get a beer.
All right.
All right, so this is SFBarkast, the non-violent. We're pacifists here. We cannot like condone people cold cocking people in the middle of the street.
Okay, just these special sports and punching people the fuck out episode.
It's a variation of the sport.
Blood sport.
All right, we'll be right back.
I'm on time for the situation. Well.
This is SFBarkast, and we are back.
We are back
At the Uptown.
17 the cat.
In the Mission. I'm Jeff Cleary.
I'm Andrew Louder.
And Andrew, what do you got for me?
I think it's time for bullshit pint.
It is time for bullshit pint, and do you want to handicap this bullshit pint?
Oh, geez, I wouldn't. I don't think they're even taking bets on.
You wouldn't. I mean, you know, in Vegas, like they'll take bets on like anything.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even take bets on this because just looking at the glass that you have here at the Uptown, and like it's 100. I would say you'd say like nothing's 100%.
Yeah.
This is 100% okay.
You can take this to the goddamn bank.
Exactly. You can. This is like Fort Knox.
Exactly. Safe as houses. He's pouring it now.
I'm sorry, I'm pouring it right now. We should have some pouring music.
There we go.
That's about right.
That's exactly right.
It is. Yeah, it's totally. It's a true pint here.
It is a true pint.
You're not getting skimmed.
Hooray!
I know a lot of people like wade through the entire podcast just to get to this because they need to know where they're spending their money.
Exactly. It's the public service that we like to provide.
Exactly. So, Uptown, you have passed the bullshit pint.
Good on you, Uptown.
That's right. I want to give you credit for doing what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. Thank you for not lying to our face.
It's the least you can do.
Thank you for not yancing it up.
This bar is getting more crowded, and I just want to say, like I said this, it's like the opposite of a douchebag bar. Like like you know when you're in like a douchebag bar and like people walk in and you're just like, that guy's an asshole.
Exactly.
Like every person who's
I tend to do that pretty much everywhere I go.
Right. Every single person that's walked in here, I'm like, that guy's cool.
Yeah, I think even if a true douchebag walked in, you'd be like, oh, I wonder what that douchebag's doing here.
That guy must be lost.
Oh,
maybe I'll help him find his way. Like, oh yeah,
he's probably just dressed as a douchebag.
He's probably
as a goof.
Probably needs to have. He's probably asking directions to go over to foreign cinema.
Is it Halloween? Why would people be dressing?
Why would you dress like that?
Fantastic. I actually just overheard something too that made me very, very happy.
Yeah.
Because like at the end of the bar there was a guy was screaming at a woman for not giving the $6 million man the props it deserves. She was like, well, it's not like I hate it. I just haven't really seen it. He's like, what are you talking about? That's the greatest show ever made.
That's probably like
a sentiment which I could not agree more with, by the way.
It's probably the closest to a bar fight that this bar's had in a while. I think like maybe the bartender was like reaching for the bat underneath the bar. Are you really gonna disrespect the $6 million man?
They'll have to like tell that to the cops later. They'll be like, "What was the how did the fight start?" And it's like, "Well, this guy was saying that like Star Wars figures are better than Oscar Goldman's exploding briefcase," and you can imagine where it went from there.
Exactly.
Like, what?
Listen, you're not talking about the Bionic Woman here, okay? We all know that had huge holes in it. And Jamie Summers was not like a completely fleshed out character, but they were talking about Steve Austin.
This guy said that Sigmund and the Sea Monster was the best Sid and Marty Krofft show, and we all know it's The Lost Saucer with Jim Nabors and Ruth Buzzy.
I accidentally, when I was like drunk, this is something you should not do is like come home drunk and then start shopping online.
How do you think that online retailers like exist?
Although, you know what? It is pretty interesting because any day can, you know how like Christmas morning you wake up and you see all these presents, you're just like, oh my god, I wonder what I got. If you're online shopping while you're drunk, and it comes, you're like, oh my god, I wonder what I got.
It's like, hey, it's a box.
Every day can be Christmas. But in one of those like nights, I bought the Sid and Marty Krofft DVDs. And next thing I know, I'm watching Sigmund and the Sea Monster, and I'm like, I don't even smoke pot anymore. I don't know why I have this.
There was a fantastic. Actually, it's funny because like The Lost Saucer with Jim Nabors and Ruth Buzzy was fresh on my mind because I mentioned it on Twitter the other day, and somebody linked to the opening credit sequence. And like the fantastic thing about the opening credit sequence was like, I mean, first of all, it's this ridiculous concept for a show because like basically like these two robots fly around in a flying saucer. They land in front of this house and they basically like wave this kid on board.
Yeah, well,
like,
there's two kids,
like, yeah.
and they come out, and like Jim Nabors just kind of gives them like, "Hey, come on in."
It gives them the old like, "Hey, why don't you come like in our van?"
Right. Well, that's
like, basically.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, you know what, like people who are using vans and candy, like they have no idea how to do this. Like they would have such
a flying saucer.
They would have much better success if you just used a flying saucer. Like it's like, what kid does not want to go in a flying saucer?
Right. Well, and the best part is so anyway, they wave the kid on board the kids on board the saucer, and then you cut to like this stock footage of like police cars and fire engines coming. So like the cops are onto them and they're stealing kids, and like so, and then they're like, oh god, we got to rush and like take off. So like they take off, and then like it says like The Lost Saucer, and like the most disinterested, bored announcer ever. Says, and I'm doing it exactly the way that he does it, where it's like and the theme's playing, the credits come up, and the guy just goes, "The Lost Saucer with Jim Nabors and Ruth Buzzy." He's literally like he throws in the and Ruth Buzzy. You know what? He's deflated. He's just like, you can tell he's like looking at his like shitty check that he got for this job, and he's just like, ugh.
I watched that today, and I heard what you were saying, and I thought, when I first watched it, I thought, okay, I think maybe this guy is going for like a robotic voice. Like he's like, this is how robots talk, and kind of like. Then I realized, nah, he's just kind of depressed and like he needs help.
Well, it's the way that he transitions to Ruth Buzzy, where he's like, with Jim Nabors and Ruth Buzzy.
Maybe he was dating Ruth Buzzy, and it was just like, oh, it's never going to be the same.
Oh, she's never going to recapture her laughing days.
And I don't want to get like too far into this, but like in the opening sequence, when like Jim Nabors waves those two kids into the flying saucer, they just come in and like they're basically showing them, hey, look at all these lights and all these consoles and stuff, and then they're like, oh, cops are onto us, we gotta go. And then kids are like, well, it's not like they could let us out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, can we go back into our house? Nope, no time.
Well, so now they have to like have this charade.
It sure is hot in this spaceship. You sure you kids don't want to like take off some of your clothes?
You look pretty fit. Do you work out?
So now that we've shown the Lost Saucer to be complete pedophile's dream of the show.
It makes child abduction look pretty fun, actually.
Exactly. I mean, it makes
if you have a flying saucer,
it makes being abducted as a child look really fun.
Exactly. Everybody's willing in this whole thing.
Maybe this guy in the van is just taking you to his flying saucer.
So it's time for
dun da da da
dun da da da. Gone but not forgotten.
Woo-hoo. Recurring segment.
a recurring segment. And Andrew, like, I have like a tough time with this one because I feel like a lot of the places around here are still here.
It's true. I mean, the weird thing is, you think of, like, especially like these days, you think of like the Mission like being in constant turnover. But that's mainly the restaurants.
But yeah, the places that have turned over are not places we liked in the first place. So it's not like we're like, pining away to go to that like expensive shishi restaurant that like nobody liked.
I mean, there's definitely a few restaurants that have like gone through like in probably in the last year. There's probably like 30 restaurants that have gone under, but none of them were any good.
Yeah.
But one place that that I'm reminded of, and that you and me put on a comedy show like for a few months was the 12 Galaxies on
12 Galaxies,
Mission in 18th or whatever, 17th.
Yes. 18th. The 12 Galaxies was this great venue with it's kind of like two tiers. It had this great open air stage. Well. It's like that upstairs and the downstairs, and it's open air. So if you're in the upstairs, you watch the show from up there, and it's just like the whole floor is cut out. It was great. We did full contact comedy there for I think like 8 months, and it was great. But then, and also we should talk about like what it's named after, 12 Galaxies.
Oh yeah.
12 Galaxies is a reference to a local eccentric called Frank Chu.
Right.
And he
nice way of saying it.
Don't make fun of the mentally ill, all right? And he walks around San Francisco with a sign talking about the 12 Galaxies and a bunch of other like gibberish on there. And he's beloved, and I know that like for the when my friend Annie, she used to book shows over at the 12 Galaxies, and he would just show up and like she would tell the bands, you know what, this place is named after this guy. He's gonna go up there and he's gonna like spout off a bunch of gibberish about like space and shit for like 2 minutes, and then you guys can go on. And everybody loved it.
Right.
So 12 Galaxies was great, and then now what did it become? Now it's called the Blue Macaw.
Yeah, that's right. And like I've never been in there since the change. I'm not even sure if I remember it was closed for a while. And,
I remember like the manager of 12 Galaxies telling me that it was just so tough to get people there that he told me that there was only 2 acts that would like really sell the place out, and one was like jam bands. And which is something I would never go see. Yeah. And the second one would be like kind of like hip hop, like sort of like Filipino hip hop, like Daly. And he said all the kids from Daly City would come out and see like this like hip hop scratch stuff. And those were the things that would sell out every single time. Right. But like they had like the Gun and Doll show there. Film School played there. Local good indie rock bands.
Like the way that place is laid out. It seems like if you saw like a really really great band there, like that, and the place is packed, it would be so cool because you'd have all these people hanging over the top of the band. Like,
I saw Deersworth
Mad Max like sort of feel to it.
Oh yeah, it was a fantastic venue, and actually I think it got sold again, and I think it's going to become a restaurant.
Of course.
Yeah, because you know what? The one thing the Mission Corridor needs is another restaurant. Hopefully, they'll either do like Thai food or maybe some like upscale Mexican. You know what really work down there is like if you had like a 24-hour restaurant where you could just go and like have like greasy food after everybody's drunk. Like that would be gangbusters, especially in the Mission. Totally, yeah. Like there's not really any there's no such thing as but yeah, that's like nearly the Castro. I mean, like if you're talking like down that part of town, everybody goes to El Farolito. Couldn't miss. Yeah, get on it. Restaurant tours. Daniel Patterson, are you listening? The other thing I want to say about like that neighborhood where 12 Galaxies is right across the street was the old Mission Theater, and it got bought by the Alamo Ale House. Yeah, and it was a single screen huge theater that was just vacant for the entire time I've been in the Mission, so at least 17 years. And the Alamo Ale House bought it, and they're dividing it up, and it's going to have like
I've seen like actually like an artist rendition of what it's going to look like. It looks like it's
There's
going to
like
be really
5
cool.
small screens.
Yeah,
and
but
they're
it's-
going to sell beer.
Yeah.
and
But
I
there's a
guess-
whole like sort of a condo complex next to it too. That's like all the windows are sort of like alternating, like So it's going to be like
Yeah.
a really cool like sort of
What was
facade that looks out on the Mission sign.
The place right next door used to be called Giant Value, and that got sold. So that's going to get like demolished, and they're going to put up like condos there. So I was talking to the manager of Doc's Clock, and I was like, you know what? Like you are Doc's Clock, which is right next door to the 12 Galaxies or Blue Macaw. I was like, you know what? You are going to totally make out. And on this one, because there's just going to be there's going to be a movie theater next door. There's going to be like condos, and it's just like And she like looked at me and she's like, yeah, you know what? It seems like it's going to be cool for me, but like as soon as my lease is up, who knows?
Yeah,
You know, the owner or the landlord may be like, hey, I want you out, or we're gonna triple your rent.
Right. Like
So
they're like they're gonna be like Scott Euclid needs another restaurant, so you're gonna have to get out of here.
Jesus Christ, that guy! How many restaurants does that guy have?
I think more than a person can count at this point. But,
If anybody's listening, there's like this restaurateur who owns at least 4 restaurants in the Mission, and it's kind of a virus.
I like how you wait until the end of the episode to say like, if anybody's listening, if anybody hasn't turned it off yet.
I'm talking to you, Drew Harmon.
That's 3. No way.
Oh, really? I heard Drew Harmon got a haircut. You know
This
why I
breaking
know?
news.
You know why I know that? Because the internet. It's because we live in the information age.
That's a Barkast exclusive.
All right, let's get back. Let's wrap this up. But
should.
let's get back to the bar.
Okay.
This bar, come on.
It's great. I mean, like, you know what? I think that
It is.
that you summed it up beautifully when you said that whoever walks into this place, you feel good about that person, and no matter what they look like, you're like, okay, this person knows what time it is.
It's the vibe, like the vibe in the place. It's like it's totally not pretentious, and it's like people getting off work and people are friendly. Like like I was joking about how that Steve Austin argument could be like the biggest fight. Like you're never going to see like a bar fight here.
Yeah.
I mean, if we talk to the bartender, maybe she would say it differently.
Yeah, it could be.
But
You never know.
it's just like seems like everybody I've met here and everybody who's walking in is like super cool.
We didn't even get to the Christmas story where you brought a fog machine in here, but that's probably for the best.
Oh, that's right. You know what?
Like, I just remember that now, actually. Long
This is
story
the
short.
thing. I'll tell this story very quickly, and it's for the young people out there. If they're thinking, hey, you know what'll be funny? If I bring a fog machine to a bar and everybody will just think that I'm the funniest guy in the world.
Young people, you can just stop. Like when you have a thought that begins like, you know what would be funny? Guess what? It's not.
I did go through this phase where I bought a fog machine. It might have been another drunken
I went
online.
through a phase where I bought a fog machine.
Well,
This is like it gets better video, right?
Well, it might have been like I said earlier. It could be one of those like late night things. I come home drunk and I get online. I'm like, you know what this place needs? Fog machine. And for some reason, I had this. When you buy something, and you think like, oh man, I'm just gonna have this fog machine, and people are just gonna be high fiving me all down the street. I was like, I'm gonna bring this to comedy shows.
Right.
I'm gonna bring this to weddings,
Funerals. Bring this to get my taxes done.
And I was still in that sort of euphoria, and I brought it to like a comedy show at a social club, a comedy show. It was a open mic, and there's nothing that'll throw a comic off like a fog machine, by the way. So after that, we got a little drunk. I think it was you, me, and Chad Lehrman, and then we came here, and it was because I remember specifically it was right around Christmas because they had their Christmas tree up, and I put the fog machine behind the Christmas tree and then set it off. So it looked like the tree was on fire.
It looked and smelled like, because I mean, like, you know, like it wasn't like a total, like, you know, misty, like, water smell fog machine. It was like it was a chemical fog machine. So, you know, like it smelled like, you know, like gas burning or something. So you like put that behind a tree and like suddenly like half the place looks like it's on fire, and like we're sitting there like everyone's gonna start laughing any second now.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
And you know what? It just like never happened. Like
Right.
like that whole like thing where everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, we thought that was on fire, and now we realize that you're just a cool guy."
Remember, like the reaction was sort of like, it was like, who did this? And it was like, oh, well, we did. Are you about to congratulate me?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, fucking get out.
Do you remember there was some people? There were like two couples from Montana who were sitting on the couches, and I was just like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna set this off," and they
He's
were
gonna
just
blow their mind.
and they were just like looking at
Montana
us
people.
like. And then when like the bartender, I remember the bartender was super nice about it because he wasn't like, "Get the fuck out." He was like, "Why did you do that?
Right.
Why?" And I was like, "It's funny." And he's just like, "Why? How is that funny?"
That's what it,
Like he had to open like the door to like air the place out, but whatever, you know.
that almost, I mean, like that. You sort of know you're at least on the right track. If their first reaction isn't to be mad at you, it's just to be like, I want to learn more about what goes on in your head.
Yeah, maybe he was just like researching, like instead of like trying to figure out what happened.
You have a particular kind of idiocy that fascinates me, sir.
But you know, there's a small silver lining to the story because, like, yeah, he basically told me to get out, and the two couples were looking at me and were just like, "What the fuck is wrong with that guy?" Right. So I grabbed my fog machine and I started to go walk out, and like this girl came over to me and grabbed my arm and just turned around and just goes, "Hey, I wanted to let you know, I thought that was funny." And I was just like, well, you know what?
Why doesn't the story end with you two being married now?
I know exactly. I should have proposed right there.
Well, you're going to love our wedding then, because it's going to be nothing but... I'm going to get like 10 fog machines.
It's going to be like being in London. And like I think I remember saying like, well, I gave her that speech where I was like, you know what? If I can just reach one fucked up person, then I'm happy. And then I left.
That's turn to everybody else. This was all lost on you.
That's the key.
She gets it.
You always leave them wanting more.
Well, fantastic. No better way to close this out.
Yeah, no better way to close this out. This bar is great, and you know they let me like light off the fog machine, and they let me hang out and smoke pot in the back. So that's what we've learned today, right?
I think we've all learned that you should register to vote.
Everybody should register to vote. Do your civic duty.
Exactly, and if you see a Pomeranian, be nice to her.
And come to the Uptown. They'll love you here.
Please.
All right, this is SF Barkast. I'm Jeff Cleary.
I'm Andrew Loudon.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.